What's up guys, Nate back with another video from Teaching Technology. I own a custom integration company where I help clients implement technology into their homes and businesses. Today's video, we're gonna break down our AV rack that I have in our showroom that has multiple different types of control systems, theaters, audio, cameras, anything that you can think of tech-wise, I've got it on display here, and we're gonna look at the brain that powers all of it. So, for the life of me, I can't figure out the best way to film this. We're gonna go handheld and I will talk about each individual piece and then we'll check out the back and we'll kind of talk about why we used specific products in this rack and what they're powering throughout the showroom. So, first things that we have is our actual network. So right here, we are running the Arachnus AN310, which is our router for the entire space. We use 2 access points throughout the space. You'll see in a lot of our videos, we generally use Ubiquiti now. We've bounced back and forth. We were big Arachnus partners previously, but we do like Ubiquiti, and for a company like us where we need to be able to remote in and manage the service, both have great platforms for that. Arachnus uses a program called Oversee, which gives our techs the ability to remote in and resolve issues or run updates or whatever it is. Ubiquiti also does a very good job with their dashboard for clients as well. But we are running the Arachnus system in this. So we have the AN310, which is the router, and then we have the AN210, which is a 16-port PoE switch. We do run quite a bit of PoE product throughout the space. I believe the Arachnus is very similar to Ubiquiti with, I think it's 42 watts of available PoE power. Anything past that, you would need to either PoE inject or you're going to need to do a more capable switch for what you're running in your house. What is PoE power? If you are running anything that does not need an electrical outlet, so something that doesn't need to plug into a 110 outlet, whether it's something like, for example, that panel that you have on the wall there, that is from one of our control systems. That allows us to not have to run a physical power to it. It just uses the power from our switch. Same with things like an access point up top there, same deal. You've all seen Ubiquiti's access points, Arachnus, TP-Link's Omada series. There's a lot of different types out there, pros and cons with all of them. If that's something you're interested in, we have a lot of the product here. Let's do a video on just that. Same as cameras. Cameras are a big PoE source typically. They range from 5 watts to 12 watts normally. So you would just do the math on how much product you have and how much power draw you're going to use, and then you work backwards from there, whether you need a bigger or maybe even an enterprise style switch. But don't quote me on it, but I'm almost certain it's 42 watts available on the 16-port PoE switch. The next piece, so we use a blank here. I am a big fan of using blanks. I like to space things out. This is a fully vented and cooled rack. It does have fans running at all times, helping suck out that hot air. We do run a theater in here. We do run demos pretty frequently, and it does run hot. So we try and get that air out as quick as possible. So we have top fans in this, but it doesn't hurt. Let's say if you're an integrator like myself and you build racks, a blank is like $2. There's no reason you can't put one in. They do make vented ones, which we'll use frequently. It just really depends on, at least here in our showroom, we did what we had around. This rack gets worked on constantly, so we're changing things. The cable management in the back of it is not the cleanest thing that we put out because it's not a client's. We are constantly unplugging and replugging things, installing different control systems, testing different control systems. So you'll see in other videos that we have, a lot more goes into the cable management than something like this. So when I flip this rack around, you'll see 99% of it's very clean, but like for our patch panel that we run in the back of this, the cables are not all specific length. They're not the thin Ethernet patch cables that I like to use typically on a client install. They are just what we have around and what worked best at the time for us. The next piece that we have in here is the Savant IP audio. I'll run like a full top down and of this. I know it's probably hard to see what is actually here. The Savant IP audio is how we run our distributed audio throughout the entire showroom. So the space has in-ceiling speakers in every individual room, and we use this as an example of how we can source select and isolate rooms. So similar concept with, let's say, like a system like Sonos where it's wireless, and you have your Sonos app and you get multiple different zones of audio. Same thing with this, but this is hardwired. So this is running physical in-ceiling architectural speakers. We have the ability, I'll throw a little shot up on the screen here of me using the Savant app to select different sources or different zones of audio throughout the space. But all that is basically switching our audio back and forth. The next thing we have here is our actual Savant host. That is the brain to one of the control systems that we are running in the entire space. We use like I mentioned before, 3 different control systems in here so that clients can have an idea of what suits them best for their home and how they plan to use the technology. But that is the brain. That is what, when I click a command on one of the keypads in the wall or one of the panels, that is what is telling that scene to initiate, and that is what we're programming in from the back end through a program called Blueprint, which is what Savant uses. Our next piece that we have in here, so we do have a full 13 channel theater in our showroom here. We do, I'll do a whole separate video on the actual theater. I do have a produced video coming out soon where we kind of dive into the full showroom and we give a tour, so stay tuned for that. But our theater uses Revel towers, KEF subs, so the front stage is Revel, KEF subs, and then we do have Architectural's 2 rear channels, and then 4 Atmos speakers, which are all episode speakers, and then our left and right are also in-wall episode speakers. The theater is powered by a Denon AVR. It does a really good job of controlling the multiple sources that we run in here. So like the background, you see it moving all the time in the back of my videos. That is just an Apple TV running, which is controlled through the AVR. We run a Blu-ray player, which gives us the ability to play higher quality clips. We do a Top Gun demo in here, is like our most standard demo. It's 2.5 minutes. It gives clients a really good idea of like the difference that high quality audio makes. And it's tactile. For as small as those 2 KEF subwoofers are, they really do make a big impact. And we have it room corrected to a specific seat, and we have the client sit there and show them kind of what the difference is. And it is a testament to what we do every day with theater and audio equipment, because this space is like the antithesis of the worst space you could put a home theater in. So like anyone who's an audiophile, this is like the last place that you would put something that you wanted to sound good. We have an absolute wall of windows. Behind the TV is windows. And then behind me is a big open space. So there's nothing for sound to bounce off of. We have very high ceilings in here as well. So the audio, like it's not what you would ideally look for. And it is good. It sounds great in here. And it's a good use case to show people that you don't necessarily need to have the pre-built dedicated room for audio. Don't get me wrong, it would be great and it will sound better, no question about it. But it's possible now with technology and room correction and software to really make your audio sound as good as possible for the space. For our amplifier that we run for our home theater, we use an Emotiva amp, and then below that you have our Panasonic Blu-ray player. You'll notice on the Blu-ray player, we have this little white wire here. That is an IR blaster running back to our Savant system. That is what allows us to use, for example, the Savant remote or the app or any one of the panels to send the command to tell the Blu-ray player to turn on. And it uses the IR as opposed to using any one of the actual like manufacturer remotes. We run multiple, like I said, multiple control systems here. So we run Savant as the overarching control system that has physical panels and switches throughout the space. We use a control called Josh AI, which does a beautiful job with their UI. Their app is phenomenal. It is very Apple-esque. It is incredibly easy to use and it's very intuitive. So when you plug that thing into network, it automatically picks up a lot of the products. So the programming and labor intensive side of things is quite a bit less for us, and the end user gets a great experience at the same time. And then we have a couple different, what I would consider the DIY automation platforms. So like if you're just starting to dip your toes into like maybe some IoT products, or you're getting into, you want like a singular platform to control it all, we do a couple different ones in here. We use your basics like Google Home or Amazon Alexa. And then we have kind of your next step, which would be a company called Brilliant, which does have a panel that replaces a standard light switch outlet, essentially putting an iPhone on your wall and giving you app control of all of those individual different pieces. It does a really good job for the price point, and it does not need cat wiring back to like a central location like a rack. So we really focus on catering to all levels of clients. Something like this may not be feasible for you or your house or your family. So we offer everything. We do a little bit of all of them. In a previous video, I kind of talked about my background and what made me get into a business like this. I spent years in the cell phone technology industry. I watched people not have anywhere to turn for help with tech. And by default, because the technology or the app that they were using was on their phone, they came to the phone store for help. So I watched it. I watched for a decade. There was no one to turn to. And outside of a company like Geek Squad from Best Buy, there really isn't anyone. So I make it a point that I don't just work on big, extravagant houses that have full integration networks and control systems and lighting and your shades and everything like that. I do work with companies like Sonos and Ring and Brilliant and Philips Hue lighting and whatever those, I guess you could call them like your DIY products. We do all of that as well still. So we showcase all of that in our showroom. And like I said, I do have a video coming out soon where we kind of deep dive and I give you a full tour of the actual showroom. So that is the bulk of our network rack. I'll flip it around now and we'll kind of run through some of the wiring that's in the back of it. Okay, so like I mentioned in the other one, I'll run like a top to bottom video clip so that you can kind of see it and you can pause and look at things that you'd like to. Again, I'm very new to YouTube. I'm trying to figure out the best way to film things. Obviously, this may or may not be it, but let's run through some of how we wire things. And like I mentioned before, this is in our office. Very rarely are clients looking at the back of this. We use this and up constantly, and things get changed and swapped all the time. This is not exactly an example of how we would leave a client's rack, but just how we use ours. So our first piece here, we have our patch panel. This is what is feeding all of our multiple trunks coming in from the different spaces of the house. This house is a very old New England home, and a lot of people are regularly saying like, my home is too old, I can't get wiring anywhere. We pulled over a mile of cable in this house. It was built like turn of the century, 1900s. It's plaster walls. It is like a Wi-Fi nightmare, and everything works great in here. So we use it as a testament to kind of show you that it is possible, regardless of the make or how old your house is or what it, I mean, this has a stacked stone foundation and we still made it work. So we have a lot of wiring coming in. All of our trunks get terminated into our patch panel. Like I mentioned before, we do use Ubiquiti mainly now, so we are using Keystone patch panels. I have another video where I kind of talk about the difference of a Keystone patch panel versus a punch down patch panel and why we use it. This is a punch down. The next piece that we kind of have is our actual AVR that you saw from the front there, as well as our amp. So all of our speaker wire coming in. So like I mentioned, we have 13 channels of audio in this space. We have in just that theater alone, plus we have distributed audio in every individual room. So we have left, left and right, front stage, center, 2 subs, 4 Atmos speakers and 2 rear channels, and then left and right on the side. So all of that is terminated down into the AVR and the amp. And then one big thing that I do really like is the Wattbox power conditioner. It is IP controlled, giving us the ability to remote into it and restart anything that may need a reboot. It takes the responsibility off of the client. It's not necessarily something that they want to deal with. A lot of the clients, if we're putting a rack this size into their home, it's 9 out of 10 times a very hands-off approach from them. They just want it to work. So that's where we come in, we make everything, the ability for us to remote in and just make it work for them. We do have a mixture of different DIY products kind of mixed in here. I don't know if you can see it, but back here, we do have, just like anyone else would have, a Philips Hue hub that's running right off of an Ethernet back to the switch, giving us control over it. A lot of people would have that just like on a desk plugged in. So it's a good mix of different types of products. Not everything is always gonna be like a rack mounted solution. So one of the big things that does drive me nuts with this individual rack is the labeling in it. So if anyone has ever used a label maker that is meant for wiring, like has the ability for Cat 6, not all labels are created equal. We exclusively use the nylon labels now. So maybe that's a pro tip that helps you. If you regularly make Cat 6, Cat 7, whatever it is, if you label wires, I'm trying to think, I'll put in what label maker that we're using. It's not a Brother. Rhino, I believe. It's a big yellow. You would know it if you saw it. The nylon ones are the only ones that stick. I don't know if it's because it gets so hot or what it is, but they all peel off and it drives me absolutely insane. And obviously in a client situation, that's a nightmare because we may have one tech that installs and we have another tech that goes out to service. And if nothing's labeled anymore because the label fell off, that's not doing anyone any favors. So that was our deep dive into my AV rack that I have in our showroom that we use to display different types of technology for clients. If you like these more long form videos that kind of deep dive individual products or individual systems, go ahead, leave a comment, tell me, and I'll make more of them. We can talk about the theater, we can talk about the Lutron shades, we can talk about individual control systems and how we use them or how we implement them. Maybe you're thinking about getting a control system for yourself and this helps you make the decision of what is gonna be best for your home. That's awesome. Like I said, in previous videos, I have the absolute, the best job in the world. I get to play with all the new tech. I get to help people implement technology and make their lives easier. And you really, you can't beat that for me. So as always, I'm Nate with Teaching Technology. If you like the content, go ahead and click subscribe.